Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics Sunday night live show. And it is the final Sunday night live show where we have no football on the weekend, because starting from next weekend, we've got football. We have State of Origin next week. Week after, we got unofficial prayer games, then the official pracky games, and then obviously opening round of round one. So we are getting into the thick of all of the football action, which is making all of us smile from ear to ear, along with the app, obviously, being open. We can make all of our changes there. I'm your host, Bales, and you can find me at BAILSDT across the socials. And joining me to chat about the Defenders tonight, our final positional preview episode, is a couple of our fantasy fanatics. And Taezer, mate, how are you? How's the week been for you? And you're looking forward to finally getting some footy next weekend?
Yeah, man, I'm just I'm salivating. Can't wait for footy to be back, and yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, exactly right, mate. And Tom is jumping on as well, mate. How are you? How's the week been? And you looking forward to getting some footy next weekend as well?
Oh, 100%. Actually seeing human beings running around and WA destroying Victoria. It's gonna be a great first week of footy.
Yeah, exactly. As a South Australian, I'm still very disappointed that they're not doing SA versus Victoria. But hey, it's good for WA to be getting the game there. So, and it's football. So at the end of the day, I don't really care. I just want football on the screen. So looking forward to that. So as I said, tonight we'll be chatting about our Defenders episode. So obviously we'll talk about the popular players there. We'll then each talk about a Defender premium that we're keen on that's under that sort of 20% ownership threshold, and then a Value Defender with the same thing there. We'll talk about some player updates as well, just throughout the week. We'll get to that first there. And yeah, if you've got any player requests, if we don't get to your player that you want discussed, live chat, you can chuck your players there, and we'll answer those once we've got through all of our players there at the end. So about last 15, 20 minutes or so to be talking about those players. So if you are tuning in, make sure you get those in. But we do have a bit of a slight announcement for the pre-season. We do have a new sponsor jumping on for the pre-season, and that is our good friends at Keeper Fantasy. Obviously, Keeper Fantasy's back for 2026 and packed with even more great features for the serious draft leagues out there. Drafts are now open and better than ever, with priority picks, pick trading, and a new live chat to let you get stuck into your mates when they slip up. I'll be sure to be doing that for the BEP boys in our big Dynasty League. That is for sure we got going on there. 18 teams and like 36 list spots. So it's a big, big draft league that I'm in, and I'm sure we'll be doing all that. And it is on Keeper. Most exciting, though, is their new position-based scoring mode. You can now award different points per lineup position. I mean, you could set forwards to only earn points for goals, mids for disposals, and rucks for hit-outs. That's just a taste of what Keeper can do. So if you do play in a series draft league, head to keeperfantasy.com and see why it's the most trusted draft platform. That's keeperfantasy.com. So if you are generally drafting, obviously we've got a few weeks to go before the season starts. Make sure you do head over to Keeper. It is a very, very good platform there. All right, boys, let's get into some key updates throughout this past week or so. So we'll start off with the first update that came at the start of the week, Taezer, and that's Sam Draper. Bit of a stress fracture in his foot. We don't know if it's the same foot that he had the Achilles injury for, but he'll be missing opening round and round one. So that means he'll be out to round 3 at the earliest. Does this change anything for you? Does Darcy Fort all of a sudden could he be a short-term, real risky play there? Or is this just it's good for Brody Grundy in round 1? It's good for, I'm not sure who Brisbane playing round 2, but it's good for them. But it's probably just meaning that Draper's out and we're not considering him, and that's probably it from there.
Yeah, look, you've probably heard my thoughts before on Draper, that he's a good player. He's probably going to be the number 1 ruck eventually, but players just don't come back from Achilles and get thrown straight into 85% time on ground and a similar amount of CBAs and ruck contests. It was never going to happen, at least in my opinion. So the fact that he's struggled building up those training loads and has now had some foot stress, or I can't remember what the official diagnosis was. It makes it even more likely that they're going to ease him back, because I think they've got him on a 6-year contract, if my memory's right, or at least a 5-year. So then they're not going to just throw him in there. They're going to use him as impact, and not probably. I would even bump him way down the draft boards. Those kind of stress factors, anything to do with the feet, you just really watch that, because they get extended all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I was sort of a bit cautious on picking Draper, even if he was ready for opening ranks. I'd never saw a situation where he's going to be the number one ruck. I always thought it'd be fought with Draper and probably sharing, and maybe back part of the year would be when Draper's interesting. But obviously, this just means that you're not considering him now, and he's out to after their early bye. Tom, bit of a knee issue for Caldwell. So a bit of it on the minor end, but just a tweak of his knee, jarring his knee the previous week on the Friday, but sort of light sessions to start the week. Does this a bit of a flag for you, or do you think as long as he's playing these pracky games in the midfield, you're not too stressed about it?
This is just another injury for Jai Caldwell. His big issue over the last couple of years has not been when he's been playing; it's the amount of games of footy he's not been playing. He's no longer in my side. I've removed him for a cheaper option in a bit of a cash grab move, because I don't want to spend over $1 million on somebody that I don't think is going to be there 6 weeks in a row. And that might be a bad move by me. I think if he's fit and ready and raring, he's going to be a great pick. That first word, fit, I'm just a little bit wary, and maybe that's why he's been saved from the CBA loads that we want from him. His body's just not up to the crash and bang of an inside mid roll.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a flag, as you say, with that injury history that he has had. So hopefully he plays those pracky games and looks good and could be some. But I guess with maybe Zach Merritt looking at a new contract, maybe he will be playing that midfield role. And you got Parrish, Merritt, Caldwell. Who knows what's going to happen in there? So it'll be an interesting watch to see in these pracky games there. Bergman, unsure on his role, and that's words from him in an interview with 7 News Adelaide. So we'll chat about him when we get to the popular players, because I want to delve into him a little bit more there. And also Nick Newman as well. He is very, very close to full training. Obviously, that was broken by our good friend Drew Jones at Goat Fantasy, tweeting that out there. So Nick Newman, very, very close to full training, which is exactly what we want to hear. And then he'll get some minutes in the pracky games. We'll see him in opening round, which is what we're hearing. We're having a little bit of concern with the fact that he wasn't in full training yet, but I think he had a small hamstring issue in January. That's why he wasn't in full training. So hopefully everything is all good, and we'll see him in these pracky games there. George Wardlaw, hamstring injury again. I know a lot of North fans on Twitter I saw were quite worried with that now, saying that is he going to be the biggest sort of what if that they can remember at North Melbourne because of the fact of all these injuries he's getting. So we hope that George Wardlaw can get his body right. It's a small hamstring issue, but it always seems like there's something a little issue with George Wardlaw. So hopefully he's okay, but does that maybe open up some mid-minutes? Maybe that slight bump for Sheasel, maybe from up to maybe 60% if he wasn't going to be there already. Does Parker get in there a bit more? So that's a watch this space for North Melbourne in the pracky games there. Naz dominating match sim, 5 goals. A lot of people are dominating match sim, so I won't delve into that because obviously they're only playing against their own team, right? But sort of seeing that, I'll quite nervous not starting Naz, but I'm not starting with how expensive he is there. And then a couple of rookies that look like they're going to be there round one. From what we're hearing, good reports of Richmond, Jaden Short thinking that Sam Cumming and Sam Grill will be there in round one. So good to hear one of the leads at the club saying that a couple of rookies will be there. So again, watch this space. And Dan Annable there as well. So shout out to Darcy SC on Twitter. Dan Annable apparently looking very, very good in the A's in the Brisbane team, playing to the midfield. Again, probably just getting a bit of exposure to him in the midfield in the preseason, but that's exactly what we're going to be hearing from these rookies in the preseason. And then final one, Taezer, is the couple injuries at Melbourne. Jai Cully, broken arm, so that'll see him out for an extended period. And Jack Viney hasn't trained at all in the preseason. He's had a back injury. I think he's had a Achilles as well. So it's a couple of issues there. This will obviously open a bit of Melbourne's midfield to start the season. I've had a bit of interest in Harvey Langford in the preseason. Does Trent Rivers go through there? Like, what do you think will happen with that Melbourne midfield besides Jack Steele?
Yeah, I think it just opens it right up. It sounded like he was never really on track to play in the opening weeks of the season, but he could be missing half the season or more by all reports. Yeah, I'm interested. Probably of all the teams, Melbourne is the team I want to see them just start playing some games, because I'm really interested what that midfield makeup's in. Like guys like Langford, I think Steele's going to be a constant, but Langford, Lindsay, someone, there's roles there, but what's it going to look like? How they're going to mix it up? Are they just going to give a lot of guys, maybe 50% CBAs and mix it in with a wing role or a half forward role? Because but it's exciting for fantasy coaches because there's points there from someone.
Yeah, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, there's one name that is jumping out to me, and it's not the most fantasy relevant name, and that's Tom Sparrow. He's still on that list. I just looked through 2023, 2024. He was having 40 to 50% CBAs all through that period. Last year he had less than that. Last year he dropped off the face of the earth in the CBAs. For the majority of the year he didn't attend one. And I just wonder whether, with another senior body out, whether they want to throw all of the kids in there at once, or whether Melbourne decide, especially new coach, decide, what, we're going to go someone with a little bit of a more senior body, so it isn't just Jack Steele and the kids. So
you sound absolutely stoked that Tom Sparrow might be getting some midfield time. You sound you're over the moon.
I mean, and nothing against you, Tom. Nothing against you. But you've shown you've had a decent role before and not scored from a fantasy point of view. Priced at 61, I don't really think as a forward. I don't think he's that relevant, even if he does, unless it's a full 80% CBA role, which I very much doubt. But it could be the kids, and if it's the kids, then there's a lot of interest, whoever that kid is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to watch to see how Melbourne, that midfield, does shake out as well. And final update, just thought to sneak this one in there as well, but Connor McDonald, who we've been really keen on all pre-season, continuing in match sim training in the midfield, apparently going very, very well. Hawthorn people saying that his kicking and delivery is looking really, really good, particularly delivery inside 50. I think kicked a goal or two in their last match sim on the weekend in training. So, yeah, really good to hear. That's exactly what I want to hear. Now I want to see in these pracky games. So I feel like I'm so sick of saying these match sim updates. This is what happened. This is what happened. I want to see it on the field. I want to see it on TV. I want to actually see these roles, which I'm sure that we're all the same there as well. But that's the updates there for the past week as well. We may have missed one or two. Apologies if we did on that. Now, popular players. So we'll go through the players all over 20%. So we have got a few names to get through. So we'll whiz through these and then we'll get to a few players here. So Zeke Yulin, 58.1%. Probably not much for us to add. We see him in opening round. He's got a great run early. We expect him to be there on a wing. We're hearing that's what we're hearing reports as well at a Gold Coast. If he's there, we pick him, whether it's in defense on field or midfield on field. I think he's going to be one of those rookies on field with that good early run. Now, Taezer, Connor Rozee. I was a bit surprised when I saw the ownership percentage of Connor Rozee. It's currently sitting at 55.9%. Now, there's a reason, obviously, for that, because we think that he's priced in the 104. He take out the injured game that he had, that average bumps up closer to that 107, 108. Good early run. We expect him to be off halfback. But 55.9% is a lot of people. Is there a world where you could see yourself going away from Connor Rozee and maybe picking a midfielder instead, and maybe putting Zeke Yulin or whoever you had in the midfield into defense and going an extra midfield premium and almost anti-potting against Connor Rozee? Or do you think with this early run, halfback role, you're pretty keen and he's in there?
Well, look, mate, I think that he's going to be a top 6 defender, unless something really kind of out of left field, an injury, a significant role change, or something like that. He's just going to be at least a 105 guy. He's shown it. I think he's settling into the role. It seemed like his scoring went up once he had that halfback role. So as long as it continues, he's going to be up there, and he's one of the few guys that don't have the bye. So, I think he's kind of a no-brainer layup pick. I think the argument against is if you can find a bunch of other guys that maybe have 10 to 15, 20 points upside that are going to be around the point, and we're going to talk about a few of them shortly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was a bit shocked. I knew he was over 30%, but I didn't quite think he was that close to nearly 60%, edging towards 60%. So it's a lot of people, but there's probably a reason for that. And I think that the early buys, with there being so many teams, that a lot of these picks that don't have an early buy are probably going to be selected by, probably going to get a bump in ownership percentage because they don't miss that game. So, and I think Connor Rosie is one of them. Another player that's highly owned, Tom, is Colby McKercher. 46.5% is currently sitting in. So a lot of people there, but I think for good reason. He's a 95 averaging player when he's at half back, and by all reports, he's training there as well. The two slight flags is that he's trained a tiny bit in the midfoot in preseason. I think that's just to get some midfoot exposure in preseason to play half back. But I think the bigger slight concern, you could say, is Caleb Daniel is taking all the kick-ins. And I don't know if you guys saw the Pat McAfee show, the clip going around. He was mentioned on the Pat. They said Caleb Daniels, and he'd retweeted, which I thought was quite funny. If anyone hasn't checked it out, do check it out. It was quite funny. But took all the kick-ins, right? So, Thomas, is that potentially a good thing because McKercher will get all the plus sixes probably from the pocket? Is it a flag at all? And are you keen?
Keen, yes. Flag, not really. He didn't get him last year, so we're not taking anything away from the 95 he averaged when he moved to halfback. Great early run. He's just going to play off halfback. I think that's just going to happen. North improved drastically with him off halfback and Cheesley in the midfield. Clarko's not going to mess that around, I don't believe. So, yeah, I just think he in our group chat, it was, who was your first pick? And for me, it was Colby, and it still is Colby. Yeah. He could be a top 6 defender this year.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see a world where that is the case for sure. Yep, and he's in my team as well, and I think Taezer was nodding his head as well. I think he's in all of our teams at the moment, so I think we're all keen there, and there's a reason why he is owned by so many. Sam Grill, next on list, 40.9% owned. Obviously, we talked about it before, that sounding very positive out of Richmond, that he'll be there off of halfback, potentially as a role, looking for him there. So if he's there, we'll be picking him in defence, and probably an on-field rookie, or at worst D7 or even M7. You never know. So obviously with the defender mid flexibility. Nick Newman, next one on this Taezer, 40.7% owned. I think slight concerns have been alleviated a little bit with the fact that he's very close to full training, and that he'll be playing some minutes in the Pracky games. We get to see him in opening round. Is this just a case of, if he's there opening round, looks good, role looks good, that we pick him?
Yeah, I think so. He's so much value on what he can produce. You know, he's 1 year removed from going 102, I think, something like that. And, you know, unlike some of the other guys, you know, he has 130s, 140s, I think even a 150 in his locker when he's got good matchups. So, you know, I wouldn't take that on if he's looking fit, if he plays the Pracky games, and if he scores in round one. I wouldn't mess around with it. Probably something that would be more interesting is if he scores an 70 or an 80 in round one. In round zero. Do you watch him longer? You know, maybe, but look, he's just, you know, he's so much value on what he can do. So I'd be really looking to pull apart his role, or a reason why he isn't going to do what he's done many times before.
Yeah, and you could see last year Carlton were missing him a whole bunch. He was the guy that they really needed back there. They need a good kicker back there, because all the guys back there do just either bomb it long or miss targets. And I think Newman will be that guy back there that'll be that general. So I do like him. Josh Lindsay next on list, 37.9%. I know we've heard like Jepp has been a little bit cautious in terms of he doesn't reckon he'll be there. I think a few people around West Coast think the same. But with Brady Hoff injured, does that open up a potential spot for him? So I'll watch him in the preseason to see if he gets a spot round one. Jacob Farrow probably was the other, was also the same. He at the start of preseason, a lot of S&P people said he probably wasn't going to be there, but been training really well past couple of weeks and looking really good, and people think maybe he's a chance now for round one. So again, defender mid, we're going to be looking at him as a potential option, so keep an eye on him. Now, Tom, Nasai Wanganeen-Millera, he's so expensive. Is it just he's too expensive, we don't start? He's got an early buy. We just have to suck it up, because I think we're all going to hate watching St Kilda and watching him probably dominate. But is it just too much? We wait till after his early buy.
I think he had an amazing year last year. He got zero attention. He was and that's just not going to happen. He is St Kilda's arguably one absolute gun. Could argue like a Cal Wilkie maybe down back, but like you stop Nass, you're basically going to stop St Kilda. So I just think he's going to get attention, and I want to watch what this full-time midfield role is for him, and can he back that up every single week, as in his first year of inside mid. And if he can, I'll happily jump on. I don't see him going 120, 125 at the start of the year and getting away from me. I can just sit back and watch, see if he improves, and if he doesn't, I'll get him cheaper. I think there's a lot of good defenders that are slightly cheaper than him that we can maybe start with instead of Nass.
Yeah, even if you compare just him and Connor Rosie plays an extra game. He's cheaper, like in terms of like Naz is 1.163 million, Rosie 1.092, so about 70k, well 70k cheaper. You get the extra game. Really good start to the year as well. So I think that he's someone that we'll be looking to upgrade at some point, Taezer.
Yeah, and so I was going to ask, when is that point that we look to upgrade him? If I think the three of us are, kind of unanimous on he doesn't represent enough value to start with him. So when do you jump on? And I was having a look at his fixtures, and I kind of saw that around round 7, which is when you want to be really upgrading these guys, or at least your rookies, and getting to some premiums. He's going to go West Coast, Carlton, Gold Coast, Richmond, and then Freo in a 5-game run. And I think you want to try and be owning him around then, because there's potentially some captain scores there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
the one thing I will say about that is, if he isn't showing and you don't get on him, you can't get him around 7. The last 4 games before his bye are rancid. It's Hawthorn, Sydney, GWS, Bulldogs are about as high as it gets for inside mids. So it's get on around 7 and you're happy and you've got him, brilliant. But if you can't get there and you get in round 8, round 9, round 10,
mid-season bye,
the good fixtures end. It could be a post-bye play, and it's Essendon straight after his bye. So it could be a nice time to get in then. And that's just a general point going forward through the season, is you're looking for these fixture swings, so you're going to get the value of being able to buy them at their lowest and possibly sell them at their highest if you want to sell them, rather than buying them at the highest because you're scared of missing out on the points. Given I say this, I didn't buy Wang all last year, and he killed me all year. So.
Oh yeah, I hope I don't have to wait until after his mid-season bye to get Naz, but maybe round 7, as Tazy said, I think that's the perfect window to get. That's when we're upgrading. Hopefully he doesn't get away from us and he gets maybe a couple of 80s, couple of 90s to start with, a tag or two, drops a little bit in price, closer to that $1 million, maybe a smidge under, and then we look at targeting him just after, in and around that Anzac Day round or just after. Next on the list, Kitty Coleman, 29.1%, Taezer. He's next on the list. For me, and I'm interested to see if you share these thoughts, I'm probably not going to start with him unless he goes, 100, 110 plus, because he plays round 1 and you get a 2-game sample size. I think the injury history is a concern. I think I want to see Brisbane and how they shape up for 2 games rather than just 1 game. Obviously, with Jasper Fletcher, Darcy Wilmot, Dane Zorko, all those guys back there. He's not going to get away from us. You wait till after his round 2 bye and you get him in round 3 to still be probably somewhere in the 600s. Do you share that same sentiment? He has been training off halfback in preseason and getting through unscathed, which is exactly what we want to be hearing. But is there a score that would make you start, or are you going, I want to see a couple of games then target him after his early bye?
Yeah, I think because I'm so keen on Nick Newman, I don't think I would want 2 guys on that bye in the defence line. So I'd be really surprised. He'd have to really blow me away and show that he's got the role and he's looking fit and an option there, because I just don't see it, like how he's going to fit in into that prime halfback role. There's too many guys that are better than him already in that side that he's got to go past. Wilmot, Fletcher and Zorko are better halfbacks and better for Brisbane's side. So, I mean, there's an argument one of them might move up to the wing, but
I think
we're
Jasper
also
Fletcher's
here.
probably the one. I think.
Well, so okay,
Because I think they want it. I think they want him eventually in that midfield. So if anyone's going to move, I think it's him. But as you say, right, we don't know. We need to see it.
Well, we don't know, and we also think that someone like Annabelle has a good chance of coming in and is best on ground in their intra-club playing in a wing half-forward role. So, they're going to push Fletcher into the wing so Annabelle doesn't get a game. Also, but all just so an injury-prone guy can get a half-back slot. I'm not sold on it. So I have to see it, and because of that, I'll probably jump on in round 3 unless he just blows me away.
Yeah, I think I'm exactly the same there as well. 29.1% is quite a high ownership as well. I think just for the name, he's cheap. But yeah, I think Newman I've got ahead. But if Newman craps the bed in opening round and Kitty Coleman goes pretty well, maybe, yeah, as you said, maybe flip it. Maybe we go Kitty to start a Newman upgrade. But I still think I'd rather Nick Newman, Taezer.
Yeah, and I'll just flag, I completely agree with you, and I'd rather Nick Newman as well, but I'd also just flag that Coleman's never done what he's done when Zorko's in the team. And Zorko is such a magnet for the ball. Everything goes through him. He starts it, his teammates look for him. And when Coleman was, doing impressive things, in grand finals and had a good end to the year, Zorko was playing midfield and half forward. I'd be really surprised if he gets that role that he had at the end of their 2023 season.
Yeah. I think Coleman reminds me very much of Filippo, but in defence, we're going based off limited sample sizes from when their environments have both changed from when they did put up those scores. Difference being defence, we've got options. Forward line, we're sceptical on a lot of options, and we're not sure which, besides maybe Sam Flanders and maybe Harry Sheasel. That's probably where we're looking at there. So Coleman's a watch. We're looking probably to upgrade target more. So Josh Gibcus, 28.8% as well. Bench option would be D8 there if we don't get enough options. But I think there's other options there. The rookies that will score better. Gibcus, I don't think is going to score particularly well. Might pop a 60 here or there, but I think he's going to be mostly a mid-40s to low 50s type player is probably what we're looking at there. But Miles Bergman, Tom, last man on the list. I did mention there that earlier that interview, Channel 7 News Adelaide talked to him there, and he said that he's still unsure on his role, which I find a bit concerning that we're only a couple weeks away from Pracky games getting underway, and then a few weeks after that we got footy starting. But I guess Pracky games still to come. That's great. I think I heard intra-club on the weekend that he played midfield, looked good again. So it's just, I feel like it's just we've got to see the role in these Pracky games and pre-season to really look at. But are you still keen on him if he has that midfield role?
So I'm not taking the interview. I'm taking the interview with a large pinch of salt. It's just media stuff. Some anti-fluff just to provide balance. So it's not going to be, I'm going to play midfield and then get 3 defensive injuries and you have to play back. And then all the fans go, what he said he was going to play midfield. I'm less keen as I get closer to the year. I think his route to 95, which I think is probably what the line I'm looking at as being a good pick for him, is looking more and more difficult as the year goes on. Purely because of the Mr. Fix-It, on top of if Butters is going to be in there scoring, Rosie off halfback. If Will Brody starts, he's going to get a lot of first possessions just for how he plays. And if he's looking for Butters as that guy leaving stoppage, I'm just a little bit wary that he could play well and still average high 80s, 90, which to me would be a little bit under what I'm wanting from a pick, with the possibility of a proper floor score if it does get thrown back. Because his average playing purely defense can be pretty smelly.
Yeah, and I think the flag for me as well was obviously in the interview was him saying that it's good to be versatile and he's happy to play that role. That's all. It gives me, I think people said on X, it gives us Harry Perryman vibes of last year, right? Is that we saw Harry Perryman play midfield, come the start of the season, he's in defence and playing accountable, which Bergman can do that exact same role. So that's a slight concern, but something that we're watching for, Taezer.
Yeah, look, I'm going to put a different kind of slant on things. He hasn't moved from my side. I think he's been training all preseason as that midfield. I can see in their midfield that they need that role filled. They need a defensively minded, bigger body player. Josh Carr was a tagger himself. I think he would appreciate someone who can run with the opposition's best player, but still get the ball and use it when he's got it. The template of what he did against Jordan, against who else did he do? He had several good games where I just think that that's his role in the team, and I don't think he's got competition from Will Brodie and other guys. Like that's not the role. You know, where
It's a
we
different
think of
role,
it
yeah.
as a CBA midfielder. They're different players. One's a clearance player who hunts the pill. One's a defensively minded player who, who's at the back of stoppages and stops, the opposition from running through. So I'm still just as keen on him, and I don't think it's just changing because of one interview. You know, that if anything,
Mm.
that's actually probably a sign of we're in this bubble where we consume everything. We're looking for any kind of word on things, and it might be one of those situations where you're better off being a casual fan who kind of isn't on X and doesn't see this interview and otherwise thinks that he's a great option.
Yeah, yeah. He's still on my team as well, by the way, for anyone that's listening in. But yeah, I'm keen to see. I'm keen to see how it goes. Because I think Drew's probably the big one for me that probably they won't play him and Drew in the same midfield. I don't think it in terms of a CBA, but Drew, leadership group, I don't think he's just going to go away, but I think that he was playing a bit on a wing in match sim. So if that's the case, then that's a good signs for Bergman. Let's get into the pre defenders that we're looking at that were all under 20%. So, Taezer, we'll start with you with your pre defender you want to chat about. And that is a man we think will get a bump in usage, and that is Christian Salem.
Yeah, so I think like when I was probably most hot on Christian Salem, he the information about him being injured wasn't out, and in the last week it seems like he's managing a hamstring awareness, and they think he'll be back pretty soon. Um, so it's always with a little bit of a caveat. He's currently not in my side, but the reason I wanted to bring him up was because there's a big market share at Melbourne. We've already talked about what Viney's absence is gonna do to their midfield, and they're losing Jake Bowie, who is a 90 averaging defender, and they're losing Stephen May, who was their number one kick-in taker. So, there's gonna be someone's got to kick the ball out, and I think everyone's in agreement that Melbourne are probably gonna have the ball spending a bit of time in defence there. So Christian Salem is a guy who has had that role. He has been a distributing defender. I think there was a stat out that he was the highest averaging defender with a kick-in percentage of less than 25%. I might have just butchered that stat, but there's stats going around that he is someone that if he starts getting their kick-ins, he has room to growth. So I'm interested whether it's him or, whether it's someone like Trent Rivers who maybe doesn't go to the midfield and gets the ball. And, he was a high averaging defender.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I know Rowan, good friend of the show from the AFL Fantasy Post, was very happy that you mentioned Trent Rivers because I've been seeing tweets almost every day banging the drum about Trent Rivers. Trent Rivers, is this the time that he gets the bump? So, but I feel like the one thing with Salem that I think that the market share thing back there is probably the biggest step. I think we'll see an increase because the kick-ins will get an increase, but I think we've got to remember as well that he was often the guy in the pocket that would get the +6. So those 2 kick-ins extra or 3 kick-ins he might get, he'll probably be offset by that. I think the bigger increase will come from the market share in terms of the usage back there. But also, I think we'd rather the kick-ins than just a random +6, because if you have a player standing next to him, they don't get that +6, whereas the kick-ins, you get that those guaranteed points. So I think that the kick-ins and the market share will see an increase there, and someone I've got a small interest in there as well. Now, Tom, you got someone here as well that I'm keen on, and he probably would be in my side if it wasn't for an early buy, and that's Jack Sinclair. With Naz going to the midfield, that market share could be very much up for grabs for pretty much him back there.
Yeah, so Jack Sinclair, the last 4 seasons, has averaged everywhere between 100.8 and 102.9. He's a very, very consistent player. However, last year he played 8 games when Nas had a CBA percentage of more than 40%, and he averaged 109. And I think as the sole distributor back there might be a chance he can increase that average by a few points. He's not currently in my side, and that's due to that early buy. But I certainly think with Wanganeen Miller taking a lot of the opposition coach's attention as the absolute star, that there could be a little bit more free ball for Sinclair, on top of the fact he might get a few more kick-ins, which he only needs 1 or 2 more kick-ins, and that gets his average up above that 103, 104. The early buy is the big downer, but if he shows that he is the main distributor with all the kick-ins in round 0, there is a very good chance he might slide his way into my team.
Yeah. I think Sinclair's a good one and someone to keep an eye on. If it wasn't for the early buy, as you said, Tom, I think he'd be someone to be talked about a lot more in a lot more teams. My defender, Primo, Lockie Whitfield. I sort of haven't looked at huge amount of highly priced defenders so far in the preseason. Rosie's been that main guy, and I have flirted with as McKercher goes as like D1, but I do like the high price defender at D1. And Lockie Whitfield's someone that if he was to put off a big score in opening round, potentially could twist my arm because the fact that they have a decent run, I believe, for those main distributors. So I'm just getting their run up here in terms of fixtures. So, yeah, they go Hawthorn round 1, which is great, a tougher matchup taken out the way. But then they go Bulldogs, St Kilda, Collingwood, then their early bye, then Richmond just after their early bye. So really good start to the year. Then they go Sydney, North Melbourne, Gold Coast, Essendon, West Coast. So really, besides that Sydney game where maybe a Jordan potential tag, he's gone to him a number of times when they've played, take that game away, their first 10 round, their first 8 of their first 9 games are really, really good. So I've got a bit of interest there if he goes well. He's got that injury bait score that I think the 23 had last year with the concussion against Gold Coast, dropping his average down to 105. I think he's closer to a 110. I think the one flag with him is obviously the early buy and the fact that I feel like Giants can't play. I don't know if they're going to play the same way because I think they can. I think, Taze, you said this on our Giants preview episode. They conceded the most inside 50s, I think, of any team or something, or a stat similar to that. And him and Ash were just chipping it to each other, and they were just almost playing like sort of hot potato between the two and just getting points galore. Don't know if that's going to continue. Does that mean Whitfield just keeps his market share? And does that mean Ash goes down? Does Ash, because he's broken out, keep that role? And do they both go down close to that 105, meaning he's not really value? So I think Whitfield's someone I've got interest in. I'll be watching in preseason and opening round to see how it all goes. But my arm could be twisted with a big score early, particularly with a good run around.
Bales, I'll just say, he's also someone that I think it was about a 3 or 4 game stretch that he got moved to half forward by Adam Kingsley.
Yep.
And so you can look at it 2 ways. One is that, there's a little bit of room there. You could probably put an asterisk next to those games as games that he could maybe score better on. But also he's, I think that's a kind of a clear indication that they weren't really happy with him just sliding it up and getting the ball all the time. That, they need to move the ball forward. And yeah, look, I'm really interested. I can't see, short of injury, I can't see how he's not a top 6 defender. So if he's a top 6 defender, it's not a matter of do you have him. It's just when do you get on, and maybe it's round 5 or 7, or maybe you could afford to start him with one of those, as one of those guys that has the round 4 bye, which isn't quite as occupied. So, I'm interested. I'm definitely interested. It's just I kind of look at someone like Rosie and I go, well, that price similarly, and I could see them scoring about the same. So why not go to a guy who's not going to miss a game?
Yeah. I think the one thing I've looked at is, do I start Rosie in the midfield and instead of maybe going to Goulden or a Walsh, go Whitfield as D1 because he's got the better run to start than, say, an Errol Goulden, and he's got the better buy, which means you might be able to start Grundy as well. Because if you go Goulden, Grundy, you can't probably start both, so maybe then you go one or the other, but you can then start Grundy as well. So that's just something I've looked at there. As you said, there was that stretch in the middle where some lower scores, and I feel like if there's anyone's going to benefit from transition scoring, it's Lockie Whitfield's one of those players. We see multiple times he gets the kick in or he gets a +6 from the kick in. He'll kick it either down line or in board, and he'll run by for a handball. He'll get another +6 all the way down the wing. We've seen it multiple times. That's why we love Whitfield, because he's got those pig-like tendencies and observable thirst. Shout out to Dossie there with Whitfield. So, yeah, someone I've got a bit of interest in. We'll move on to our value defenders as well. But if you are tuning in live or you're tuning in a bit late, you can chuck in your player request if you want a defender discussed. We'll get to those very, very shortly once we've talked through the value defenders we've got down. But we do have, obviously, we had a sponsor for preseason keeper. We do have our one of our main sponsors throughout the whole of 2026. And jumping on once again is Game Day Squad for another season. So I'm sure you guys are aware of what Game Day Squad are now, but they combine the best elements of AFL Fantasy, FIFA Ultimate Team, NBA 2K, My Club, whatever you play on your PlayStations or Xboxes, and collecting football cards like your Team Coat and Select, combining it all in one on a new fantasy platform there. And there's plenty going on, not just football. There's all sorts of different sports on there. So if you do want football and along with other sports, then head over to GameDaySquad.com and make sure you do sign up there and use the code BAILSDT at sign up. You get some free packs as well to get your Game Day Squad journey started. And the best part about it is it's free to play, and the starter comp that they've adjusted the rules this year where only people starting out this year can enter the starter comp as well. So if you do think you got to pay to play, that is not the case. It's free to play, and you can win prizes every single week. So head to GameDaySquad.com and sign up with the code BAILSDT. Now, value defenders, boys. Taezer, this guy's a bit probably in the rookie priced bracket, but I thought we'd chat about him today because he's not a first-year player. He's a mature age guy, and I think he'll be the Bombers' #1 ruck in Lockie Blackiston to start the season.
Yeah, look, I'm really interested in Lockie Blackiston. If for no other reason than all the indications coming out of Essendon is that he's going to start off the season with that #1 ruck role, and even some of the I would say poorer fantasy scoring ruckman, it's almost impossible to go less than 65, 70. If you think of like a Reece Stanley, he's a 65, 70 guy. This is someone who, until Nick Bryan gets back in the side, he's going to have a clean run at it. And he's been apparently dominating Vigo Vicentini, who just hasn't quite built a body for AFL football. And I think if you're not going to see Nick Bryan in the team before, let's say, gather round, round 5, that kind of thing, then 4 weeks of being a #1 ruck is a long time to make money for a guy that's priced just under 400,000 and really has the capability of going anywhere from 65 to 80 odd in that role.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to get up. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I thought he had a pretty good score last year when he was in a sim role. I'm just getting it up here because it's gone to compare players, not just get up there. So I just want to get up Blackiston and if there was a good score. I just thought there was while we're chatting about him here. So Lockie Blackiston last year. Okay, no, I was probably mistaken. There was a 70 against GWS in round 19, but yeah, some lower scores there. So I thought there was a high score there, but not to be. So never mind. That 30 seconds is just wasted for everyone. Me looking for that, but not there. But no, I like the pick. Rookie priced and someone that will potentially be able to start there. Got a tougher ruck run to start the season, which isn't great, but he's cheap. If you get #1 ruck as a defender, I think that's a good spot to fill.
Yeah, and I think, look, any opinion you formed of him based on last year, I would temper that because he played in one of the most injury depleted sides in the kind of history of AFL football, and he played as a centre half back, a role he has never. Yeah, he has never occupied that. He's always been a ruckman. He's a ruckman from. He's probably the closest waffle side to me, and he his rise has actually been really impressive. Like, he's gone from being a guy who wasn't even playing waffle, I think 2 years ago. He's kind of been amateurs, and he just stepped up as a late bloomer. And yeah, I think he looks like he's going to be a guy who's going to take his chance. And for us fantasy guys, the role's the most important thing. He's going to be a sole ruckman. He's a defender. He's priced under 40, so we only need him to go 60 to be, to be a decent pick. And I think that's possible. I think even higher could be possible. He's also going to be relevant for one other point, and that is, he's a big jumper. And he's a decent guy. I think he's 203 centimeters, so he's a big boy. But I think have a look at who your ruckmen are coming up against him, because it might be a good captain selection.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact is that mid-season recruit as well last year, didn't even have a full preseason. So first full preseason with the Bombers. I think that's obviously going to be a good thing there. So someone that I'm pretty interested in starting. And the good thing is, at least at drafts I've had of a team, I've had someone like a Jacob Farrow and obviously Carmel before he got injured in my utility. Defender mid, if he doesn't get the job done, he's 400k. You go him down, you get the rookie you missed, and it could be, if you've got that flexibility, could be in defense, could be in midfield, maybe forward if you've got enough flexibility. So yeah, I do like the pick a lot. Tom, your next guy. I've been waiting to talk about him on the pod, because I've had a bit of interest at him since I heard this trade go through, and that's CJ Tranquos Jath, obviously over to Melbourne. We've talked about Salem and Trent Rivers potentially getting a bump, but I think CJ is someone we probably can't discount. His ownership is low. Ownership is low, and I've got a bit of interest, and I think you do as well.
Yeah, and it priced at 53. Like, we're looking at what does he need to do to be a good pick, and we're looking, can he do 75? We saw last year in consecutive games going 100 plus was more in a wing role, but he does have the ability to score big. He is someone they've brought across from Hawthorn to fill a gap in the side. And as much as we spoke about earlier in the pod, Salem maybe taking some of Bowie's possessions, there's still Bowie's role to be filled by somebody else, because obviously Salem and Bowie played together last year. So I'm top, like, Jath, I think, is a very, very good option, but that could also be a Caleb Windsor. That could also be, I know as a midfielder, Xavier Lindsay. That could also be Xavier Taylor, depending on what we see in the practice games. We can hopefully see who takes that Bowie role as that alternative distributor to Salem out of that back line. And I'm very, very interested to know who that is, because anyone who would is going to be severely underpriced to what they can achieve to start this year.
Yeah. I think Melbourne as a whole is interesting with that midfield, and then that defense is going to be interesting to see how all that the market share gets distributed and who's getting those points. But yeah, I'm keen on CJ as he's cheap, right? And you look at the ownership, right? Kitty Coleman is like near 30%. Then you got Jath, hasn't got an early buy, is down, I think, under 3%. So there's a big difference in ownership, and one plays in an earlier game. But obviously, we've seen arguably the same amount from both. We've seen games of Jath going 100 at Hawthorn, and if he's got a better role at Melbourne off half back, there's a world where he does go quite well and is a good pick. So someone to look at for sure. And then the player I'm going to go with, the Valley defender, I feel like he's the forgotten man of the more expensive mid-price guys, and that's Sam Banks. I feel like with Colin McKercher, with Nick Newman, and with Miles Bergman, we're all forgetting about Sam Banks because we've locked in Cole because he's a 95 averaging player of halfback. Miles Bergman averaged over 100 when he was in the midfield in the amount of games he played in there last year. And Nick Newman's obviously a 100 averaging player when he last played, and 30% discount price in the 70s. But Sam Banks last year, so the first up until round 8, there wasn't many good scores. There was like some 60s. There was a couple of 70s there as well. But Jaiden Short was the main guy back there to start the year last year. there was a shift from round 9 onwards, and it sort of coincided a bit when the fact that Jaiden Short went out with injury. So Sam Banks from round 9 to round 20, so to the end of the season, averaged 89.1 from 15 games. So that's a pretty decent sample size there. So you've got a little bit of meat on the bone just from that. Obviously, we think there'll be a bit of natural improvement there as well. So I think this average can go into the low 90s. I don't know if he's going to go, I don't think he'll go high 90s because of the fact of Richmond. I don't see them all of a sudden scoring well over 1550 in terms of team points. Still see them being in the 1400s, maybe touching 1500 potentially if they improve a bit more. But I think that a low 90s average is possible. And I think the big question is that enough? That's probably the one there. So he's a tiny bit more expensive than the likes of those like Bergmans and McKerches. I think he's, but just getting up his price here, I believe he's about 840 in terms of his price. So Sam Banks, 831, sorry, 831. So just a bit down, average of 80 last year. So maybe 10 points of value, maybe 12. I think that there's scope there to be had that you can select him. Less than 3% ownership as well is quite low. So are either of you boys interested before we go to listener requests?
He's on my watch list, so I do like him. There's a couple other guys who I just feel like a little bit more surer bets to stay on. Bergman, McKercher, Nick Newman, but he's someone I'm definitely interested. Doesn't have to buy, and especially if someone like Jaiden Short gets injured and does another soft tissue, not because he can't play in the same side. I believe he played the best half of the end of last season together, and it didn't stop him from averaging 92. I just feel like, if they're both in the side, that Jaiden Short's going to get found more. And when they're both calling for the ball, it's going to Jaiden Short. So, I'm watching him. I'm interested, but I want to see a step up, because when you start playing in that average around 80, you've got to be really confident that your guy can go 95 plus. Otherwise, it's a bit of a nothing pick. You're baking in having to make another trade because you're too far away from the top 6 defenders, and and there's a lot of good options this year.
Yeah, agreed. Yep. If he can get that mid-90s average, then that's good. But yeah, if it's that low 90s, I think it's still a fine pick. But it's not the Colby pick, priced slightly cheaper and goes at 95. 80s. Yeah.
Yeah. See, like I look at the Richmond side and I go, well, is anyone averaging 90s in that
I think
team?
Taranto will. I think Taranto probably the one, but there's probably not a huge amount other. So that's the concern, right? He's probably the upside's cap could be at Richmond, but if he gets that role and is averaging mid-90s, then they turn out to be a decent pick. Alrighty, let's get into these player requests that we've got from listeners. So if you are tuning in live, I've got a few people tuning in now. If you'd like a player that we haven't discussed about yet, and get them in the comments, and we'll at a live chat, and we'll answer these now. So of Lee Everett. Thoughts on Tom Stewart, Bales? Injury prone, I know, but takes a lot of kick-ins and +6s. I will not pick Tom Stewart in my side, and I can't advise anyone to pick him. I can advise you strongly not to pick him, because my life was very, very stressful at the beginning of last year, because every week there was an issue, and people have heard me go through them. I remember vividly the first all the week, every week up until gather round, there was an issue, and you couldn't sit back and relax. So I couldn't do that. Plus, as well, on a fantasy standpoint, Geelong have changed that he's not the main kicking guy anymore. He's still main kicking guy, but he's not the main distributor out of the defense anymore. You've got guys like Zach Guthrie and Lawson Humphreys, guys like that. But then Max Holmes, when he goes back there, he's fallen down the peg. He's a role player. He'll pop up for 100 every now and again. He'll get a good score, but he won't play all 23 games. Probably that's famous last words. You might do a Dane Zorko and play every game and sort of make me eat my words. But I couldn't advise it. Early buy as well is the other thing on the tipping point that crossed him off for me. So there you go. Next on list, so Rummum was asking about Lockie Blackiston, but he's also asking, Lee was asking about him as well. Tom McCarthy, someone we haven't chatted about yet. Training in the midfield. All the West Coast players all saying he's looking really good in there. Can he average that over 90 and go maybe mid-90s to be that pick we're looking for? Because he's a bit more expensive than these guys we talked about. Is he someone you're looking at?
I think he needs to knock on the 100 mark to be a good pick. I just don't see anyone in the Eagles being able to do that. I did see in Lee's comment that he's going to take the kick-ins and play midfield. I don't think that'll happen. I think if he's playing the midfield, he won't be running back for the kick-ins.
Could be doing the side things.
No, I don't. I don't know. He's ripping up the track against the Eagles midfield or the Eagles twos, who get beat up in the waffle every week. Like I'm a little bit. I think he's going to be fine. I think he's a good draft pick. I just don't see much increase. He might get a few more tackles, but he loses that free ball that he can get off halfback. So I'm kind of, I don't mind it, but I don't think there's value there, per se.
Yeah, I think I'm agreeing with that as well. Jimmy said he's cold on Bergman, too versatile, Mr. Fix-It. Yep, I think we've got that little bit of a concern, but I think I know me and Taezer still got him in our sides and just someone to watch in the preseason. Rob, Taezer, leaning towards wanting Jordan Clark in my team. Think he still has upside thoughts. And you spoke about this a little bit with the fact that Luke Ryan is looking like he may miss the start of the season with, I think he had a bit of a shoulder issue pre-season. I don't know if he had surgery or something like that, but he's been limited a fair bit to pretty much just running. So is Jordan Clark someone that interests you, or is that for a game style still something that concerns you a bit?
Yeah, so I am interested in Jordan Clark, and I do see there's a way he could improve. His avenue to improving probably would require someone like Luke Ryan out of the side. And it does seem like Luke Ryan's going to make the start of the season. So I think after I came on the pod and kind of said I was concerned about Luke Ryan, he wasn't training. I think he started playing, and then the last time I was down at the club, Luke Ryan was back in match sim, but with a pink no contact hat. So and absolutely just slutting up with the ball and just taking all the kick-ins and doing the kind of things that Luke Ryan does. So look, Jordan Clark is going to get attention from I think any smart team that wants to stop Freo's ball movement, because a lot of it comes through him. You know, he puts speed on the ball by moving it. When you've got Luke Ryan kind of flicking it around, Clark wants to actually move the ball forward. He runs it and he goes for handball receives as well. So look, there's an avenue there, but I think he's pretty tied in with Ryan. So have a look at what's happening in the rest of the team, because otherwise I think he kind of is what he is, unless other players around him, and primary Luke Ryan, he's going to be that 90 to 95 guy, and probably not much further.
Yeah. And I wouldn't be shocked as well, round one, they play Geelong. We know Geelong have got 15 taggers in their team. I wouldn't be shocked if someone that does a role like that off half forward, like, does maybe Mullen go to him at half forward, and then they do Atkins on Sarong in the midfield potentially and do that. So I wouldn't be shocked. Round one, we know we don't see many tags, but I feel like if there's anyone's going to tag early, it's going to be someone like Geelong. So, yeah, that concerns me. Yeah. If Freo's game style changes, all of a sudden we're interested. We saw what him and Luke Ryan can do, but if it's just him back there for a bit, there could be scope of improvement. Tony Ford asked you about Xavier Taylor, Jai Sarong, along with Jarks from the Dogs, Gibcus and Fincher. Won't chat about those now, because next week we have Dylan Alexander coming on to chat rookies. So we'll chat about those guys next week. Jai Sarong's probably the one we'll chat now, and Taezer will get your thoughts in a sec. But Jai Sarong, someone that probably won't score huge, but he'll probably be there, and someone that we've got a little bit of interest in as maybe a D7, D8 option. But out of the rookies, we'll talk about them. But Taezer, do you have something to add there?
No, I was going to say, kind of with all of them, watch them. So keep them on your watch list. Have a look at how they're interacting in the team, and whether they've got that spot in the team. Giants are wrong. I'm really hot on. Like, if he's in that side, he will definitely play, and depending on the matchups, he might start on field in a D6 kind of role. He is mature. He averaged about 100 in the VFL. He's a interceptor, and he gets trusted with ball in hand. So I really like him. Xavier Taylor, by all accounts, is going to be really close to that Melbourne side, especially with Stephen May seemingly going out of it and losing his mind. That's maybe something that happened in the news recently. Not an injury, but yeah. So there's a spot there for Xavier Taylor, and yeah, look, at this stage, let's see how they fit in the team.
Yeah, exactly. Rob's asking about Jasper Fletcher, Tom. Too much competition at halfback to be value. And obviously he's the one we think if someone is going to move for Kitty Coleman, it might be him. Does that, just with all the mouths to feed back there, is that just enough for you for just go draft? Yep, fine, but not for Classic.
Absolutely love him as a player. I think he's going to be an absolute gun. I think we're a season or two too early that it could be wait for Zorko to retire and then there's a spot there for somebody in that Brisbane backline. I just think there's 4 guys who have got a case to be a distributor off that backline: Wilmot, Fletcher, Zorko, and Coleman. And I think he's just too expensive for that unknown.
Wait for him and keep up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think he's going to be great. I think he's a great player.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I fully agree with that. James says, breaking news, Farrell will play round 1 and will play the Archie Roberts role of last year, and Roberts will be starting mid with Durham and Caldwell. Not sure if I see Archie Roberts going to the midfield this year, but I do hope that you are correct and Farrell will play round 1 because I'm keen on him as a bench rookie defense midfield or even my utility. So, yeah, but we'll get a bit more inside info from Dylan next week on these rookies. A couple more here to end off. Plummo said, how lads feel about Baker from the Eagles? So Tom asked you as the Eagles man. Liam Baker, obviously he's mentioned about Tom McCarthy, probably limited in terms of the not probably going to average that triple figure mark. Is it the same with like a Liam Baker, just a bit of a miss to fix it for you guys?
Yeah, I kind of see him playing more half forward this year. But that might be wrong. I just don't think he's got a fantasy game to average enough, especially in the Eagles who can't string 2 kicks together, to get the amount of points that you need to be a good pick. So love the player, don't see him as a classic fantasy option. Will be definitely draftable, maybe later down some deeper drafts.
Yeah. Taezer?
Yeah, I just wanted to just kind of build on Rob and Lee Everett asking you about Tom Stewart related PTSD. How big?
Bales has nightmares about Tom Stewart.
Yeah, how big a super chat would you need from our listeners to start with Tom Stewart in round 1?
Oh no, I don't know if there's one big enough that could do that. I'll tell you right now. I want to win a hat. I don't want to like even a super chat would be nice, but I don't think I'd want a super chat at the expense of my fantasy season. Put it that way. I don't want to be stressing every week thinking someone's going to go down. Hey, the 50% tog threshold makes it more doable than what it was last year, and maybe I would have done better if I didn't. If I had that rule last year, but. Yes, Lee, I do have nightmares about it still to this day.
I just got to say, listeners, it's on you. Start an auction, and let Bales know how much you want to see him start with Tom Stewart, and if we hit his limit, then who knows?
Yeah, if we hit 100,000 subscribers before the start of the season, I'll start Tom Stewart. And that won't happen because we're about 95,000 away. So, yeah, that's it. That's where it'll be. So, if you are listening around the world and you want that to happen, you might have to start a petition. Lee says, any interest on Callum Mills Bales? Well, funny enough, we're releasing the Sydney club preview tomorrow. So, we'll check. You can check out our thoughts on Callum Mills because we did chat about him. But for me, draft pick, yep. I just felt we talked about this on a video. Probably a little bit too many variables. I think Tom, you said in our club preview, you could go anywhere from 80 to probably 100. And if we got word that he was training in the midfield, playing midfield, I'd go, yeah, I'm on board. Let's do it. Early buy would obviously be a bit of a factor there as well. He could just be the general back there and just take a lot of kick-ins, but I'm just a bit worried about him. So I'm not sure I'll be looking to start him. But Tony Ford is asking here, Taezer, about something that we chatted about on the St Kilda preview on Friday. Tony said, I know he's a mid, but Jack Carroll going to slot in the Saints back six. Hearing good reports that he's that second distributor behind Nasai Wang and Emil, not Nasai, because Nasai's out of probably in the midfield. Jack Sinclair. and he's just over 300k. He's cheaper than like a Willem Dersma, and he's a mature age player. He had high hopes at Carlton before, just not cracking into that midfield and going to St Kilda. Didn't get a lot of opportunity last year, cover injuries as well. I think Jack Carroll could be someone to keep a very close eye on.
Absolutely. As much as you can do at this stage of the year when there's no matches being played, he's someone that is high up on my radar. And if I see him lining up in either of the practice matches, the unofficial or the series practice matches, he's he could end up on my side.
Yeah. And a good friend of the show, Liam, here as well, saying from Free Kick, call the Jets on Farrell will play this year, but not a lock for round one. Also, Archie Roberts had some time in the CBAs this preseason. However, Caldwell missed the match in where Roberts was was centre bounce. Yeah, exactly. I think that'll be the case. As I said, hopefully Farrow is there round one and is a rookie we look at. But yeah, I think he will be relevant at some point in the year if he doesn't start there as well. And I think Caldwell will be fine as well. I think it was just a bit of a little issue. He should be fine. And Roberts will play the role that he likely did last year. Last one here from Rob, asking about Nick Blakey. I feel like he is a draft pick that you go. I don't think classic, early buy, a lot of guys back there. Is Matt Roberts in the team? I think Matt Roberts will be in the team, but there was times when he wasn't. Callum Mills back there. I think it's a few too many guys back there. So not for us, I don't think. And yeah, Rob saying Cox said they want Mills down back. Yeah, I did hear that same as well. But that will do us for the Defender preview. So we're through all of our positional previews. Got 3 more club previews to go. But once we've done that, we've got the head-to-head series starting. And we get to chat rookies next week with Dylan Alexander, which will be really, really exciting. So we'll be live same time next week, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Perth time, chatting with Dylan about the rookies. But Tom, thank you for jumping on once again, mate. Where can the people find you across the socials?
Yeah, you can find me on X at Tom_Hills_.
Beautiful. And Taezer, mate, where can the people find you?
You can find me at Taezer87. I'm going to be really just getting some polls going about how high we could get this bidding system to get Bale to start with Tom Stewart or possibly even Sam Taylor. We'll see. I think we can really monetize this podcast, Bales.
Oh no! I had Sam Taylor and Tom Stewart in my starting team last year. What was I?
So
doing?
did I.
Yeah.
It's not just you, but I just traded off him.
Yeah.
I didn't hold them for half a year.
Oh, boys, it's a new year. I want to forget about this. I want to go into there, but yeah, we'll see how this bloody petition goes. You can find me at BAILSDT across the socials and us at AFL Fantasy Fans on X. If you'd like a little bit of extra content and want to head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. We do have a cash league with some big cash prize there. The more people that jump over to the Patreon, the bigger the cash prize is. So if you'd like to get involved in that and some other exclusive content over on the Patreon, I'll be releasing our first Patreon Q&A as well this week. So if you want to jump over there now, the Patreon in-season content will start kicking off this week. So make sure you do head over there. If you did enjoy the video, make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. 5,000 is our next goal. I think we've passed 4,200. We're making our way towards 5K, and if we get 100K, I might start with Tom Stewart. So we've got to get cracking if we want that goal before the start of the season. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple, 5-star rating and review would be very much appreciated. And we'll catch you guys tomorrow for our City preview and for other content throughout the week. But next Sunday night for rookies with Dylan Alexander. So we'll catch you then. See ya.
Bye.